Welcome to IHIP News Live. I've been out all morning, busy as a bee, have not been able to look at one thing in the news. So I'm going to kick it to our favorite host of IHIP News, Pumps, because apparently there is some piping hot Jeffrey Epstein tea that she called to tell me. And I was like, well, screw that. Let's just do it live. So,
Yeah.
Pumps, what is going on?
Well, we have new emails from the Democratic Oversight Committee. So it was first broken by BBC, which I will say has been kind of ahead of the US journalism, in my opinion. I've been kind of watching this forever, but there's emails coming out that the Oversight Committee did not get from the Justice Department. No, 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 no. They're getting them from the estate of Jeffrey Epstein. So here's one of the new, one of the ones that we're seeing. Okay, so this is from someone to Michael Wolff. Okay, it's Jeffrey Epstein. Yeah. Someone, okay, I'm old, my eyes don't work all the time. And so it has the victim's name redacted and it says Mar-a-Lago. Trump said he asked me to resign. Never remember ever. Of course he knew about the girls as he asked Ghislaine to stop. Hello. And that was from 2019. Within the last, the new Trump 2.0, he said, I kicked him out because Jeffrey stole girls from Mar-a-Lago. Bitch was in on it up to the kanks and vagina neck from jump. Of course, we knew that because why would he be trying so hard to hide it? But this guy is such fucking liar, which we all knew, but it's coming out. Like there's 23,000 emails I read that are coming out. We're just getting a trickle. I mean, and there's more to this. You want to hear more?
Okay, so let me get this straight. So in this email, Jeffrey Epstein says, of course he knew about the girls, which, everybody forgets. We don't, but the people who defend Trump all the time, that he was on Howard Stern. Yes. And he said something that should have been not only like career ending as like a businessman, but for sure political ending. At the time he said this, he wasn't a politician, but Howard Stern was asking him, like, do you like young girls? And he said, yes. And he said, 12 is as young as I go. And below that, no, but 12 and up, yes. 12 and up is fair. And then he also talks about how he would go into the Miss Teen USA and watch these teens, changing clothes. And there was also this girl that accused him of RAPE and was going to sue him. And then she got so many death threats. And I think she was 13 at the time.
Yeah.
That she withdrew. And now kind of nobody knows where she is. But of course, this man is knee deep in the middle of this entire thing. Otherwise, they would have released these immediately. But I think, we know he's a liar. We need to start really putting a lot of pressure on these Christians like Pam Bondi, who wears her cross, Caroline Levitt, who just, and Moses Mike Johnson, who lie and lie and lie and lie and lie to cover up a pedophile and all of their pedophile friends. I mean, I cannot believe that this has not been career ending, but, also he did try to overthrow the government.
Right. And he's still.
Right.
Okay, when you just said that about the Howard Stern, it reminds me at Trump's big announcement with RFK Jr. about vaccines. Remember, he said that you don't need to get I think it was hepatitis B, but it was one of the vaccines until you're 12, because that's when people normally become sexually active. So in his mind, 12 is, this just happened recently during this presidency. Like 12 was an acceptable number to start this whole vaccination thing. It's so terrifying when you think about these are the people in charge of the government. They're just not smart and they're corrupt. Okay, next one. Okay, this is originally to Ghislaine Maxwell from Jeffrey Epstein, and it says, I want you to realize that dog that hasn't barked is Trump. Victim's name redacted. Spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned. Police chief, etc. I'm 75% there, which I'm dying to know what that meant. And then Ghislaine Maxwell responds, I have been thinking about that. So what's important, Trump spent hours at my house with the victim's name who has been redacted, which we've heard this over and over and over again. Trump was in the house. Howard Lutnick/Netlick said everything was recorded. He bribed people. We know Trump's there because we've seen pictures from the estate. The victims have shared the pictures, the influence that Trump or that Epstein and Ghislaine both talked about with Trump. So now that makes me think there's a video. There is video. And that is, please let karma be real and that be released.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. I think if there was video, Kash Patel and Dan Bongino and Pamela Bondi have absolutely ruined it and, completely wiped it clean. That thing has been washed. I always wonder if like somebody at the FBI that it worked on this or the US attorneys, like, did they like get extra copies of stuff? Does somebody have the goods? This thing has been so protected. And I've never felt like, and the people that we've interviewed surrounding this that are not conspiracy theorists that worked on this, that were lawyers for the victims, I never felt like that suicide thing was plausible. I felt like he was killed. And Trump was in power when that happened. And this thing is not going anywhere. I mean, as mad as I am, and I mean, I am furious at the cowardice 8 senators and their leader, Chuckles, who endorsed it, who said, yeah, go ahead and do it. I don't want to seem like a pussy. So I'm going to give a platitude and say I'm going to vote no. This does need to come out. And the one things that certain things we can look for in this and we message for in this, and the Democrats need to message for, is the Republican Party is the party of crime and pedophiles, period. And every Democratic politician needs to say that as clearly and concisely as they can, over and over and over. Little Moses Mike Grinder Johnson needs to be completely put through the meat grinder on this. For him to sit around on his moral high ground and talk about, in a very bizarre way, how he monitors his kid's porn and then in turn his kid monitors him, and he's this big prude, and he married his daughter in a purity ring thing. And then he's covering up for these grown-ass men that molested and sexually abused and raped these little girls the same age as Moses Mike Grinder Johnson's daughter was when he took her to that creepy purity ball thing and put a ring on her finger and said, your virginity's mine until I give it to your husband. And so we need to start calling him out. I mean, Democrats there's a video, there's a German documentary maker who did a whole video of creepy Moses Mike marrying his daughter because he was so protective of her virginity. But yet he's so protective of all of these pedophiles that raped these girls. And a lot of these girls were poor, because another thing that these MAGA Christians always prey on are poor people. Who fights in the front lines of all of these wars? Poor people. That's where they go. The military goes and recruits people. Who gets the bulk of all the MAGA dick over? Poor people. Who were the majority, overwhelming majority of all of these victims of Jeffrey Epstein, Donald Trump, Ghislaine Maxwell, and others? Poor girls. And so these hypocritical, I have the moral high ground, religious Republicans, the messaging on this should start from the top. Hakeem's done it once, but it should be an onslaught nonstop, beating it to where if you see a triple Trumper, you go, God, I didn't realize you were into pedophilia. It needs to be that injected into the culture.
Right. You condone pedophilia. Well, obviously you do. And I just want to remind everybody, Mike Johnson has been covering for pedophiles his entire career. He was going to be dean of a law school. His mentor was molesting girls, Southern Baptist Convention. Look it up. Okay, here's another one, which this came out, and this is originally from Michael Wolff to Jeffrey Epstein. and this is December 15th, 2015. I hear CNN planning to ask Trump tonight about his relationship with you, either on the air or in scrum afterwards. Epstein responds to Wolf, if we were able to craft an answer for him, what do you think it should be? And Michael Wolff says, I think you should let him hang himself. If he says he hasn't been on the plane or to the House, then that gives you a valuable PR and political currency. You can hang him in a way that potentially generates a positive benefit for you. If it really looks like he could win, you could save him, generating a debt. Of course, it is possible that when asked, he'll say Jeffrey is a great guy and has gotten a raw deal and is a victim of political correctness, which is to be outlawed in the Trump regime. I mean, here's the thing. Those of us that paid attention know that Trump's on the flight logs because it was entered into evidence in Ghislaine Maxwell's criminal trial. So this is not shocking news to me that he was on the log or in the House, but it is to some of these MAGA people who have been screaming, release the Epstein files.
That's wild. And Michael Wolff, he's really the premier expert on Jeffrey Epstein, and he's spent so much time with Jeffrey Epstein. And I've heard him in this interview, multiple different interviews, saying that he saw a photograph. And I believe that Michael Wolff is a credible journalist, that he saw a photograph of Donald Trump, who we refer to as Kanks for spite, of Kanks in Jeffrey Epstein's, one of his residences. And there were 2 or 3 topless girls next to him, and that he had a wet mark on his crotch, which we all know is probably a cum situation. I mean, it's unpleasant to think about with things, obviously.
Unpleasant seems to understate it.
But when you put all of his whole history with women, E. Jean Carroll, the bragging about the pageants, my cutoff age is 12. I want to fuck my daughter. I think my daughter's so hot. And then I think Jeffrey Epstein was a great guy. I wish him well. All of the lack of moral clarity and ambiguity surrounding all of this. You know, he's a sexual predator, the president. He's a sexual deviant. And he always has been. I mean, no person that I know would say that they think their daughter's hot, and if it wasn't their daughter, they would date them. And that's really the most mild thing he's ever said as it pertains to women. They grab him by the pussy and all of this shit. So that's just, I believe that I believe Michael Wolff, he spent so much time with Jeffrey Epstein.
Well, and everything he's reporting and everything we're hearing and seeing in these emails tracks with his behavior from jump. I mean, this is a guy that called the New York Post to tell them as an assumed voice what a great lay Donald Trump was, that Marla Maples said he was the best he'd ever had. So clearly, this guy is obsessed with his absolute failure in the penis department and performance, and he is a deviant. I mean, you can't go any other way. Okay, next email we got today. So, from Michael Wolff to Jeffrey Epstein. Importance, hi. There's an opportunity to come forward this week, and this was in 2016. There's an opportunity to come forward this week and talk about Trump in such a way that could garner you great sympathy and help finish him. Interested? Question mark.
Well, here's my question. And help finish him. You've stayed on top of this a lot more. Was there an effort that Jeffrey Epstein thought that he was a bad leader and needed to be finished?
No, I think this is my guess. This is around the same time the grab him by the pussy tape came in and the Stormy Daniels stuff. So because Trump really believed that would end his election, like he would never have been elected after all that, and went into damage control. So I think if the timing tracks with about the same time the grab him by the pussy and all that came out, So in my mind, the finish him is if you come forward and say, yeah, Trump was in it up to his cankles and vagina neck, it's over. Because he didn't,
Okay.
Epstein
And so
never came out and
my question was, is it that the way I read that was that Michael Wolff was saying you could finish him, like
yeah,
that this would be a favorable outcome, that Epstein would want this.
yeah. No, I
That's
agree.
there's no protection language in it. Like, if you do this, this is going to really, like, interested, like, hey, this will finish him. Like, hey, I've got a way that we can get him eliminated.
Yeah, I think
Which,
that's what it was. I think if he came out at that time and said everything he knew on the heels of grab him by the pussy and all that, because I think that said October 29th, which, was right around the time that whole thing was melting down for Trump, and people still voted for him. But I don't remember ever thinking that or hearing or reading that Epstein was against Trump. My guess is he loved the idea of Trump being president because he had shit on him.
I've read that he spoke about, this is really telling, but I've read that he spoke about how depraved Trump was and what horrible character he had. And which is shocking, that Jeffrey Epstein.
Right? How bad is your character?
Right. And so I've actually read that that I don't think Epstein actually particularly cared for him as much. I think Trump liked Epstein a lot more than Epstein liked him. And I think that's probably the way a lot of Trump's relationships are.
Yeah. Well, and he's so easy to manipulate. Just ask Vladimir Putin. Okay, next email. This is interesting. Okay, so from Jeffrey Epstein to Kathy Rumor. I don't know how to say the last name. And it says, it's August 23rd of 2018. The principled case for impeachment is clear. What's missing is the coverage. And it says, here's a story from the New York Times, and I thought you'd find it interesting. And it's the principled case for impeachment is clear. What's missing is the courage. That was the headline at the time. And so then Jeffrey Epstein responds, I think he makes the argument that it was Trump's money, making it not illegal, though he also said he only found out afterwards. And the fact, according to the indictment, was billed as services rendered and grossed up. I'm sure his account has flipped anyway. I did talk in detail to Starr yesterday, RE Indictments, how Trump can make a deal, special counsel, Clinton's trash. Yes, Starr gave me more. Yeek! That's gross. That whole thing's gross. And then Kathy responds, it makes no difference whether it was his money. Issue is failure to disclose. Plus fact that he has lied his ass off about it makes it clear that he knew it was illegal. Well, duh. Then Epstein responds, you see, I know how dirty Donald is. My guess is that non-lawyers, New York biz people have no idea what it means to have your fixer flip. What about that? He
That's the
knows how dirty
thing.
Donald is.
That's what I had read, that he had spoken about how depraved and vapid, and this is coming from Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, somebody who absolutely doesn't see the humanity in anybody.
Anything.
Donald Trump's inhumanity and toxicity stuck out to him so much so. Here's the thing on all of this Epstein stuff, Pumps. We have all known that he was in it for a long time. When you see that he's so frail, and then his art and crafts projects at the White House are starting to really look unhinged.
Terrible.
I mean, it's really like, I think even people with bad taste, when you see the Presidential Walk of Fame, are going to be like, does that really look good? Should all that really be outside? And now he's going to build the Ark, the ballroom, all of this stuff. And he's frail on top of that. You hear him speak like he face planted in the Laura Ingraham interview. There's not a softball interview big enough that can provide cover for his dementia.
Right.
On top of the fact that all of this Epstein stuff is coming out, what's going to be interesting to watch, we're seeing some people in MAGA starting to turn away from him. Tucker Carlson, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Massey. You're starting to see some fissures. Will we start seeing that with Fox? Because I'm starting to see it a little bit. I saw that Fox was talking about inflation.
Yeah,
That's
they've been,
really unbelievable. They were talking, they had a graph
yeah,
that showed what prices were a year ago and what they are now. Fox, inside the Death Star, propaganda and lies that prop up this man. So it'll be interesting as we come back and record tomorrow to see how Fox is covering this. Usually it's crickets. Usually when they talk about Epstein, then you've got like trans pool
Biden.
players in
Yeah,
the UK or Ireland, and they're talking about that. That's typically where Fox goes. So if they pull out the trans card
we'll
tonight
know.
on the Fab Five or the Fucked Up Five, whatever that show is, um, will know that they know how dangerous this is. But I wonder if they'll cover it. I wonder if, at one point, Rupert like crumpled up Donald and threw him aside, 2020. At some point, that's going to happen again because he's quacking like a duck. He's frail as all get out. He makes zero sense when he talks. He's incompetent. And at the end of the day, these people, these legacy media industry titans, you make money off the First Amendment. Are you really willing to let him completely annihilate the First Amendment? And ultimately, your business will be on the chopping block as well.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want my, in my thoughts, the conspiracy that I think is going on in my head? Washington Post owned, I'm sorry. Yeah. Wall Street Journal. I'm sorry. Wall Street Journal was the first one to publish the birthday book with the female figure note to Jeffrey Epstein. You never heard about that on Fox. Then you have JD Vance waiting in the wings. Everybody knows Trump's on the downhill slide. Is this a soft push from Rupert Murdoch empire that they're going to quietly push, like what do you call it? A soft act, getting him out there, not saying Donald Trump sucks, he's a pedophile, but not covering trans rights tonight and talking about the Epstein. I think they're trying to get their audience ready for JD Vance because JD Vance is way more diabolical than Trump, in my opinion.
I think that even savvy political commentators know that JD Vance does not have the riz to win an election.
No, I agree.
More nefarious oligarchs, and I don't know if Rupert Murdoch would necessarily fall into this because he's more mainstream. He's made a bunch of money exploiting democracy, First Amendment, tax loopholes, etc. There are people darker and far more dangerous than Rupert Murdoch, if you can imagine. And those are the ones that want JD Vance. I think Rupert Murdoch and Fox adjacent style political consultants can see the writing on the wall that the only way JD Vance is going to be president of the United States is if they cheat or Kanks dies while he's in office. Otherwise, I think the cult completely falls apart. JD Vance cannot win a general election. He's so unlikable.
No, I know, but I think no one's happier about the release of these documents than JD Vance because he's dying to be president.
That's
and
probably true.
Yeah. Win a
Yeah.
general election.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's some juicy tea pumps.
And it's more supposed to be coming today. Later in the day.
Very great research. That is some juicy tea. And at the end of the day, I just want to say that these young girls are now grown women. And it's just absolutely horrific how the Republican Party and these MAGA Christians are covering for pedophiles because it is truly a party of active pedophilia or covering up pedophilia. And the people who support Donald Trump, Mike Johnson, clearly have no issue with crimes against children, which is just abhorrent considering they have a 37% approval rating and tanking. So I guess that's how many people we know in this country that are okay with pedophilia, which is 37%, which is way too high.
Way too high.
Yeah. All right. We'll see you all later.